Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here for this daily medicine transmission for January 22nd, 2021. And as you can see here, we're going to start with talking about the astrology of today. Definitely important to check in with the cycles. And then we will move on to the transmission. So I hope everyone is doing as well as they can, taking good care of themselves as much as possible right now. And really, yesterday was interesting. Many people, including myself, felt sick. We felt battered. We felt awful in our bodies. Lots of headaches. Lots of symptoms of just feeling like garbage. Okay, and it's interesting that there is still all of this tension, all of this seemingly discontent still, even though there was a scenario that unfolded that supposedly was was supposed to be the desired outcome for as what we are being led to believe is a large cross section of people. And I had no doubt that that was the case for many people who knowingly and joyfully voted for Joe Biden. So, and this isn't meant to be political. It never has meant to be political. I'm just here to read the charts and give you the intuitive message as a transmission. I find it fascinating that, despite having an outcome that seemingly falls into line with this particular desire, there is a lot of discontent still and a lot of edginess on some level. So it's interesting. So I hope people are taking care of themselves. It was a rough day yesterday. I have to admit that I certainly was feeling really shitty, really shitty. I had a headache that wouldn't quit. My whole body felt like I had the flu. And I woke up today, and by the end of the day, even, it started to dissipate as I started to unwind and follow my own message that I gave yesterday, which was letting go of the expectations, being like the fool, having the beginner's mind. Every moment is a choice in terms of how we create this reality. And the fool is often characterized as someone about to walk off the edge of the cliff. For those who are not in the know, or self-preservation is kicking in, that seems crazy. But there's a reason that the fool as an archetype is the beginning and the end, because in both of those aspects, it is the same point in a cycle coming back around. And trust the plan is not just It's not just a catchphrase that is meant to, be part of a brand. It is, do you trust God's plan? Do you trust the fractal that is unfolding, that our higher selves and all of us in this moment are creating together? Do you trust it? Do you trust yourself? Not do you trust what other people are telling you? Not do you trust all these outside sources that are have ulterior motives? If it's not about making money, or it's also to distract or to sow discord in some way. Not all of that. Do you trust yourself? Do you trust your own integrity? Do you trust your commitment to the truth and authenticity? And if you do, then you can be the fool that steps off and begins the cycle anew, the beginner's mind. So I took that, my own advice, and by the end of yesterday, a lot had started to dissipate very naturally, the headache and all of the physical symptoms. And it did feel like a detox, right? And we had to purge out all of the everything that came along with our disappointment and our expectations not being met, or just this sense, even if we didn't have expectations necessarily, and are kind of on the outside of things and just watching it, there was still a sense of, like I said, discontent on some level. So I think it's very interesting that here we are, this next day here, the moon is in Taurus, and I'm not sure about you, but I know for me that I feel even more resolved now. I feel even better. And in some ways, it's like a release. It's a release from all the tension that's been building and building and building, and that we've been building on purpose, right? We have been participating in the building of these expectations. And now that that tower moment has come to a certain extent, we are now dealing with the fallout of that, and it actually creates the space. It really does create the space within us to be the fool and to have the beginner's mind again. Now, that's not to say that there aren't more things coming and that there isn't more to the plan unfolding. Remember, this is a dynamic process that is always changing based on our interaction with this whole process. And our interaction with this process is making a difference in real time. It actually is, and it has been for a while now. And so isn't it possible that everything that has unfolded, even at the expense of our own mental health and our disappointment, is part of the plan? Maybe that is part of the plan for the awakening process to continue. It's, from what I can feel, it has just expedited things, right? It has expedited the process for more people to wake up. We were not at the precipice of disaster with the expectation that we had of everything wrapping up in a neat little narrative. And that's not how the hero's journey works, right? That is the all is lost moment has to happen. And believe me, we did not get there until what unfolded, I think, on the 20th and beyond. That's the thing. Be ready for more of that because it's still building. The momentum is still building. So let's talk about the astrology for today to get a sense of where we're at, because I think that there's every reason to be comfortable and hopeful and to really settle in and trust the process, right? And realize that the crisis is really the seed splitting open, and trusting that that is part of the process to break us open in order for this new quality of being to come out of the potential that has been surrounded by the shell of the seed. Okay, there we can see here that the moon now has passed over Mars and Uranus and Black Moon Lilith yesterday, and so we did have a very strong sense of what that means to be able to see the future outcome, to let go of the old patterns in order for the new aspects to develop. We had a really strong sense of that. That was a very personal experience yesterday, and I think that it did add to people's fallout feeling of having to deal with the discomfort of that experience, right? And that in that moment, it was uncomfortable. And that's where we grow, is from this discomfort. So now we've passed this point with the moon in Taurus. So what do we have today? Well, we definitely have a trine to Venus in Capricorn. There is a sextile to Neptune in Pisces, and asteroid Ceres in Pisces just crossed Neptune and is now at the degree, this is important, is now at the degree that Neptune will square the nodes in just a couple days. So what does that mean? Asteroid Ceres, the goddess of the grain and agriculture. This is the actual representation archetype of Gaia as a living organism, right? Giving the grain, going back into the contraction, the seasons and how they operate, and accepting the darkness, right? That is the thing about Ceres. Her daughter is Persephone, and Persephone was quote unquote tricked into going into the underworld and then became the dark priestess of Pluto. And her mother was completely distraught by this. And so what ended up happening is that nobody could go into the underworld except Mercury, the realm of the mind, go in there and broker a deal with Hades. And they came to an agreement. Half of the year, Persephone could come back to the surface. Half of the year, she had to stay in the underworld. That's kind of how it works. You know, you can't bypass going into your own shadow. And Ceres, as a result of her being so distraught, half of the year went barren. And so it is this representation that the cycle and the darkness and the shadow part of the cycle is inevitable, and there's no bypassing that at all. When we go into the darkness, we have to accept I don't even want to say our fate, but we have to accept that that is part of the process. And that whole story represents that. And the cycles represent, in a very real way, it's not to necessarily punish anybody, although some people could think of it that way, but it's meant to show that there is no bypassing when we go into our shadow. And part of that is contracting and pulling in and allowing that process to unfold naturally. So when Ceres today at 20 degrees Pisces squaring the nodes, right, very karmic, very almost obsessive about where we're headed, our karmic destiny, the head of the dragon, and also the tail of the dragon, where we've been. So it is showing us today, she is showing us today in this square, that we have to trust that the table is set and that the meal will be served at the right time, okay? Which is going to, really challenge our obsession of where we're going in terms of the mind and understanding. Gemini is what we know. Sagittarius is what we understand and how we apply it. There is so much obsession, and there will continue to be, with this consuming of information. And that's part of how we are growing and evolving, is not about the consuming of information, but it is about how we use that information, what it actually brings to our awareness, and how it characterizes our personalities, right? That is the Cancer archetype that comes after Gemini. So this square today, keep this in mind. This is very palpable. This is going to show us the natural cycle, because when Neptune comes around to square the nodes exactly, and I mean, you can see that the square here is very strong. It's only a couple days till it's exact. I mean, the level of fuckery is about to hit a fever pitch in terms of propaganda, in terms of mind control, in terms of manipulating our emotions. And again, we will have to get to a point that, despite all of what we know and we understand, and the application of that understanding, there is a sense of, do we trust? Do we trust that the table is set and that we will show up when the time is right? It's really important. And there's going to be so many aspects, there's going to be so many things that are going to challenge this, that are going to try to pull us out of our trust and our center. And today, with Ceres at this point, it connecting to Gaia and this actual organic earth grid is going to really help mitigate this and help us get through this process. But if we're completely still focused on consuming information, or the converse of that, which is Sagittarius, which is planning for the future, trying to get everything figured out, that's not us trusting this process, okay? So again, connecting to the earth grid, right? That earth star chakra is so important. It's so much, and our root chakra, of course, but even deeper than that, it's so important. So the moon in Taurus today, like I said, making a trine to Venus in Capricorn, okay? This is really, again, helping us stay in our integrity, having us emotionally trust this cycle, realizing what power actually means, right? Capricorn is a political power to a certain extent. And also in the sextile to Neptune, again, it's about trusting this process. Now the moon is in a square to Mercury. Oh man, Mercury, in our minds, we really want that comfy rug. We want to be warm and fuzzy. We want to know that our understanding gives us this, protection, affords us this protection. And the square with the moon again, the moon today is, again, we're going to have to really decide where it is. Our minds want to be really protected, our warm, fuzzy blanket, right, with Aquarius. the nursery floor rug, it's warm and understanding for those of us who have kind of seen into the future. And it's not that that's a bad thing, but the moon in Taurus, again, is pulling us back into this emotional, intuitive space of trusting the process and maybe being a little bit uncomfortable, right? But the moon in Taurus is very comfortable. So it just depends on where we want to situate ourselves. These squares are where we learn so much about ourselves. And then on top of that, look at this here, Mars and Uranus and Black Moon Lilith, especially Lilith and Mars, in a exact conjunction today as well. So our self-preservation meeting Mars today in an expectation of natural conditions unfolding. This can really, Mars, it's not easy for Mars in Taurus, but I think we can really get the most out of this warrior energy if we are able to plant ourselves into this soil. This natural process is just, there's so much about it unfolding naturally, and trusting this process that can really get us through. That doesn't mean being complacent. That means trusting the natural process unfolding, okay? Which has been a huge struggle with all this Aquarian energy that has our attention on the future, right? On the revolution, on where we're headed, the collective good. And that's all great. That is the age we're heading into. But right now, with this Taurus energy, it's important that we honor it and pay attention to it and realize the square is where that space is where we're going to learn the most about ourselves. Also, I want to talk about asteroid Vesta. Do you remember a couple days ago, right before the inauguration, where I said, oh, look, Vesta's going retrograde in Virgo. And the moon in Aries is like, oh, look at all the possibilities that we can have with cooperation and everything. And there was a quincunx to Vesta going retrograde. Well, it's really important that we consider that we're going backwards now in terms of we have to go back over all this old territory in terms of what is keeping the community alive. What is the spark of transformation and spiritual will that the fire of Vesta represents? It's going retrograde now, so we're going back over all this stuff in terms of Virgo, right? This is about our discipline, our service, our commitment, being meticulous about who we are, doing the work on ourselves in order to be the flame that sustains the community. So Vesta going backwards, and again, is in a quincunx to look, Mercury in Aquarius. We mentally and in our knowing, there is a desire here to have this, like I said, the warm rug on the floor of the nursery that's protecting all of us in our understanding. Wouldn't that be great? The quincunx to Vesta is like, well, again, are we going to have to go back over all of this characterization of the part of ourselves that is committed to something more than ourselves? And Vesta is really supporting this, but the retrograde is going to make it really frustrating. But if you can do this, if you can accept this, then this adjustment with where Mercury is in Aquarius is going to be so powerful, right? It's a gift right now to have this quincunx, because it absolutely provides an opportunity to adjust ourselves and our expectations and our need to have some sort of comfort with our minds, because we are definitely looking for that. And this is where the square with Neptune is going to really betray us if we cannot get this under control. All right. That means maybe it's okay to lay low. Maybe it's okay to back off all of the consuming of information right now, and trust this process, and to allow ourselves some joy and some optimism, and know that we have more than we know. And that's the title of this video today. You have more than you know, and we do. And I can't wait to give the actual transmission with the intuitive read, because it's all right there. It's all right there. So one thing I want to talk about as well is, let's see here. The moon is going to be in a trine to it's going to be in a trine to Pluto in Capricorn. And there is a cultivation of natural energies for collective use. There's a collective enjoyment with Pluto destroying everything. So just keep that in mind as well, that we can really each individually connect to the fact that Pluto is creating space. It's creating space for all of us. And if we can feel that on a personal and intuitive level, we can really enjoy that process, even though it's really difficult. Our power of transformation in the chart is Pluto, right? And so being able to see that from that perspective is really important. And when Persephone went into the underworld, in some ways, she may have been tricked, but in other ways, she knew what she was doing. And she has to now take responsibility for going into that space and being, having to face her shadow, right? Having to face her shadow. And so there's no getting around that. There's no bypassing that. And if you think that there has been, if you think you're bypassing your own shadow, because of the things that are happening outside of you. Oh boy. And that really was about the first quarter square. I mean, boy, did it lay it out pretty strongly in terms of what are we going to do? Are we going to be destroyed by an unexpected twist in fate? Or are we going to let that fertilize the soil in which we are growing in, the medium we're growing in? And that's up to you. That's up to each of us. That's part of free will, and that's part of living with choice. So let's go to the reading, and this is exciting. I think it's exciting. So and does really. Let's see here. Let's get things a little bit more aligned here. There we go. Just so you can get a good view of everything. Okay, so let's get right into it, because we have more than we know. We really do. And this, what I feel, what I picked up on, what is coming out in this transmission again, and especially the astrology too, is that victory is right here at the heart of this. And although things did not work out the way that our expectations and our egos wanted, that doesn't mean that this is not part of the plan. And in fact, I think it's great what happened now that we've kind of had some time to let it settle, and our disappointment or whatever's happening for us. It doesn't matter. You could have been super stoked about what happened on the 20th and think that everything's hunky-dory on the outside. There's still no bypassing the shadow, right? Because there's going to be things that are, and you can already see them starting to unfold that don't really fit the narrative that maybe we were fed originally. So something else to keep in mind too. But here we go. We have more than we know, right? So coming into the moment, the 9 of discs, gain, right? Venus and Virgo, time to gather in the crops. This is about health and wealth and successful reconvalescence after an injury. Oh, that's interesting. An illness or an injury of some sort. This is the healing process. So wealth and well-being. Venus is about being satisfied. Venus is about sensitive to the material world, and Virgo is the culmination of everything that we have cultivated, right? Virgo time is when the fruit is coming to fullness in order to be harvested, which is the Libra time, harvest and then weigh it out on the scales. And so Virgo is where Vesta is in Virgo. So there is a sense here of gain coming into the moment, that we have gathered in everything and that we can really enjoy it and bask in some ways in our wealth and well-being. Now, of course, this could be it all depends on how you look at it, right? It all depends on the perspective you're coming from as well. So but based on this reading, I can definitely say here that this is more about the awakening process and not so much a false unfolding, right? Where you feel really sure of yourself and your victory. That's not what this is about at all. This is about that we have more than we know, right? And coming into the moment, we've gained so much and we're pulling it in, and can really hold it right now, okay? Because in the heart of the moment here is the victory, the 6 of Wands. So you have a 9, you have a 6. There's a lot of harmonious energy already numerologically. The 6 of Wands, victory, right? Jupiter in Leo. So this is very sovereign. This is very leadership oriented with Jupiter expansion. And then Leo is the heart and the regal, royal aspect of us. Victory. The thing about the 6 of Wands, specifically about this victory, is it's lessons learned, the crisis overcome, right? You don't get to this victory without some sort of strife, which is what the 5 of Wands is. And we realize that strife and that crisis was necessary to grow and to develop. Oh my Lord, doesn't it seem like that was all part of the plan now? Don't you think that upset of our expectations and that feeling of heartbreak and crisis was part of the plan all along? Don't you think that our higher selves have brought us to this point so that we could really evolve and really grow and really sharpen our discernment about who we are listening to? Are we listening to ourselves and our own intuition, or are we letting other people tell us what is going to happen so that we are cut off from our intuition? Necessary to grow and develop. It was necessary, but there's a well-deserved victory right here. There's satisfaction. There's triumph. This is the heart today, the heart of the energy today. I really felt that when I woke up. I was just like, yes, yes, we have more than we know. This is exactly what is supposed to be happening. I would be suspect in if honestly, if it all had turned out in that, it would be too easy. Too easy. And when it's too easy, it's not really that sweet of a victory, is it? So keep that in mind. So where is our attention, though? So this is important. Remember this? This was yesterday in terms of, hey, pay attention to the guidance. Well, now it's at the top of our awareness. This is important. The karmic trench. Right? We dig that trench, the 4 of Scrolls, we dig it and dig it. These are our neural pathways, the self-defeating and sabotaging thoughts. There's still a lot of focus here. And the reason I think this is on top is, again, to show us that it's not about the fact that we keep digging this trench. Now, some people do. Some people are continuing to dig the trench and go deeper and deeper into their self-defeating thoughts, into feeling like we've lost, into feeling there's no hope, whatever it is. But this is much more, because it was the guidance for yesterday. Now it's here. We are learning something about this right now. And this is at the top of our awareness, so that we realize that it's our own thought processes, our own neural pathways that lead to our disappointment and to our expectation. We had deep expectations based on the neural pathways that are that we've had entrenched for a long time. So now we have to start actually dealing with it. And yesterday this came up as the guidance, and so now it's here. It's here for us to pay attention to. What are our self-defeating thoughts? How do we sabotage ourselves? What are the neural pathways that we keep digging down? And the further we keep digging, it makes it harder to get out. So keep that in mind as well, because thoughts create things. And that's just all there is to it. It's really that simple. Not saying it's easy, but that's really simply what it is. And so I'm not saying be unrealistic. I'm not saying that we should, there's a telegram blowing up. I'm not saying that we should be unrealistic or that we should be, going into a state of hopium. Again, that's part of listening to other people and not trusting our own instincts and our gut and our own inner guidance. But we are now paying attention to the fact, we need to be paying attention to the fact that we've put ourselves into this karmic trench by our own hand. And it's also up to us, and it takes conscious intention in order to get ourselves out, which means that we stop digging and we climb out and we prepare the rest of the field, okay? This is the top of our awareness. Now, what's at the root of things is so beautiful. The muse. Number 15, this is a very Piscean energy, very Neptunian energy, right? This is being inspired, artistically inspired. Remember the unicorn that also came out yesterday, right? Magical, creative, imaginative side that we need to cultivate. Well, at the root of things energetically is being inspired in a way that we didn't have the opportunity necessarily to be inspired by before, right? Because we're so caught up in we were so caught in our karmic trench, weren't we? Right? We didn't leave any space to be inspired and to be imaginative, right? And so now at the root of things, we get to be inspired. We get to use our imagination. We get to bring forward this artistic aspect today. And with Ceres in Pisces like this squaring the nodes, I think that this is, again, really important to connect to that imaginative, inspired place, that artistic place, to create something beautiful. And our resources are really strong in this way, okay? It's time to allow ourselves to be inspired rather than to stay caught in our own cognitive dissonance or our own karmic trench, these neural pathways that have been sabotaging us. All of this is about the awakening. It's not about anybody winning anything. It's not about anybody losing. It's not about arrests. It's not about who's president. All of this, from a dimensional perspective, is about the evolution of humanity to the next level, right? And so we are all creating these situations in order to wake us up, and it's going to keep happening, and it's going to be a cascading effect, and it's going to be remarkable. But we do have to acknowledge how we have sabotaged. We have to acknowledge our self-defeating thoughts, and you'll see the guidance here as I go into it. So the outcome, here's the Knight of Wands, the purest manifestation. So this is us, right? So we have victory at the center here, realizing the crisis has been overcome, the lessons we've learned, necessary to grow and develop, and then we become the warrior. Enthusiastic, proud, commanding, noble, honest, right? This is honest. Look at this guy. His horse is like up. This is it's got that Sagittarian feel because it's all the fire. It's the Aries, the Leo, and the Sagittarius, but it's looking, facing up, the big picture, all the optimism, highest aspirations, spiritual realizations, okay? This is all fire and a strong will. Now, of course, this can degrade into tyranny and oppression, but with everything what we're looking at right here, this is the highest realization of our spiritual will and our inspiration right here. We are becoming this warrior, okay? And being completely inspired, being completely enthusiastic, noble, and honest, okay? This is where things are headed. This is really good, okay? So where is the guidance here? First, with the karmic trench, I'm going to start with the animals, the honeybee. Let compassion and forgiveness be your top priority in the situation. Be easy on yourself. Be compassionate and forgiving not only to yourself, but to other people who maybe are having a harder time getting out of their trench because they've dug it really deeply. There is a lot of division right now in many corners, and it's just going to get worse to a certain extent because that's part of the crisis that we need to overcome in order to awaken. Be easy on yourself. Be compassionate towards other people. Everybody is in a different place because that is what they need to grow. But it's important that we hold that compassion in order to be forgiving of ourselves, be forgiving of other people, not be so quick to judge other people because we've all done it. We've all done it. And so this is the basis of compassion, is realizing that we have participated just as much as the next person. And the self-righteousness and the judgment, I think, really needs to be, we need to get in control of that. There's a lot of division. There's a lot of attacking. There's just so much infighting because people are just they're stuck in their trench. They're stuck in it. And so they've lost hope and they're lashing out at other people, and there's a lot of attacking. There's a lot of infighting. And so it's important to be compassionate and to realize this is all part of the plan, the fated meeting, okay? It's important it's important. See, people are attacking me right now just because I'm trying to point something out. People want to believe what they want to believe. They're trying to, that's a really good segue into this, actually, because not everybody, sometimes people are wrong, not because they're trying to be, and not because they are intentionally trying to mislead each other or themselves. They are stuck in their karmic trench, right? And they can't even see outside of it. It's so deep now. Okay, have some compassion. That doesn't mean that you carry water for those people. It means that you have compassion for the situation that they're in, and stop bypassing your own bullshit by externalizing it and transferring it out onto other people that you think are intentionally trying to defraud you. Okay? It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. You can call people out for being wrong, or you can call people out for not having good information. And they could be defrauding you on purpose. I know I'm kind of going off here, but I have a really strong opinion about this, is that we need to stop judging everybody else and get right with ourselves. And, there's a difference between calling people out and being like, yeah, that was wrong, and maybe we shouldn't listen to that person as if they have all the answers, and also just trying to attack them because you're mad and upset that your expectations were also not met. And so it's interesting. But anyway, it's all predetermined by our higher selves. All of this, right? All of this situation is about learning and having our karma cleared, right? Karma from our past lives is bringing us together. And it's about our individual and collective growth. So keep that in mind as well, especially if you're really trapped in your own trench and you're just like, I don't know how this happened. All of the self-defeating thoughts. Remember, this is about trusting the plan and realizing that we have brought ourselves here collectively for the sake of waking up. Again, that victory at the heart of this moment is about learning our lessons from the crisis, okay? We need these situations in order to wake up. Okay, and that doesn't mean continuing to externalize them and continuing to find the bad guy out there, because the reality is that we all have to deal with our own shadow and not bypassing that. Okay, and getting on this pedestal and this high horse about it is really not helping. So when it comes to being inspired, again, here's the penguin. It says the period of darkness that you've been experiencing is now passing. This has come up a bunch lately, and it's showing me at least that this has been passing for a while. It's because because what's happening now is a reflection of more light, more than there ever has been. And it is a good sign that everything's coming to the surface. It is a good sign that we are seeing things for what they are. It is a good sign that things transpired the way that they did in order to show everything with such transparency and authenticity that it's impossible to be fooled again, right? So know that in terms of being inspired, know that we're coming out of the darkness, and we're not going back into it. And I know that's what a lot of people probably feel like right now, that it's hopeless and that we're going back to the death spiral. And in some ways, there is a death spiral of the old, but not of us, okay? This is part of the awakening process. And here's Archangel. Ascended Master Hilarion, right? This is about research and science and spirit communication, right? This is about real research. This is about being very, this is about wisdom based on really deep research, right? And forensics. This is something that we can be inspired by. Again, it's not an obsession. This is not an obsession. This is just doing the research and wanting knowledge for the sake of being fully in awareness, right? And so we can really take something from Hilarion as an ascended master in this and realize that it's not about who's feeding us information. Hilarion, look at him. He's doing his own research. And clearly there is, he's surrounded by information that is not, all of these, you can see all of these beings here that are in the silhouette around him in his lab. They're there. They're offering their own input, right? This is our karmic past. This is history being here as well. But it's also, he's very focused on what he's doing. And he's looking and he's researching. And his only real goal is the truth. And getting to the truth. And that means doing our own research. So we can be inspired by this as well. And we can also be inspired by the idea that the darkness is passing. That's what all of this is the darkness passing. It's all coming to light now. And part of that is being committed to the truth. And that's what Hilarion as an ascended master really represents, is commitment to the truth and commitment to wisdom. And that only comes from a commitment to really getting to know ourselves and really getting to know, the nature of reality. So there's the transmission, guys. Thank you so much for being here. And if you're catching this on the replay, definitely let us know. I could tell that yesterday was not as popular as the 20th, which that it still had a lot of positive message to it. But I felt like people wanted to kind of, and this karmic trench aspect is a real good reflection of it. I feel like people really wanted to kind of just sit in their disappointment and really wallow in their negativity. And that's okay. It's okay. But what it's showing us is that is the trench that we dig ourselves into. And as long as we continue to stay there, then that's where our thoughts will stay as well. And so just have some compassion for yourself. Be easy on yourself. Realize that all of this is part of the plan. And we put ourselves here in order to learn something. If anything, it's to get out of our trench and realize that thoughts create our reality. And where our attention is where everything goes. So at the heart of this is a victory, right? And this is going to inspire us to be a warrior for our own ascension and our own awakening, and be a real leader, right? Be a real leader, and the spiritual realization that's going to come from that is so powerful that we can't be denied at that point. So guys, have a really great weekend. Thank you so much for being here. Everything you need is in the description box below. You can find me on Telegram. I have a couple more days till I'm out of Facebook jail and I can post again. So you can always go to the Facebook profile for Catalyst Energies and still like and follow there. And soon I'll be posting there again. I will try to behave myself so that I can stay out of jail this time. Now that the inauguration is passed, I feel like that it's okay to kind of like lay low a little bit and not get so in the face. So this will probably help me stay out of trouble, and which is hard for me. It's never been my forte to keep myself quiet and challenge the status quo. But you can also find Catalyst Energies on Telegram, and I'll be posting the content links to there as well, so you can follow me there. And if you're interested in reading, you can go to the website and book a service there as well. I would be happy to work with you. These readings are so powerful. So readings like this, we can do astrology. The Starseed package is one of my most popular, as you probably know if you're watching me on the regular basis. I'm sorry if this is a broken record, but this is kind of how it works when you run a small business. I have organically gotten to 103 subscribers. I do not buy views or subscribers or bots. So this is a big milestone for me to hit this mark. So please help this process if you find this, and subscribe and like the video so more people can find this content and our community can grow. I love you guys. I'll see you on Monday for the transmission. Take care of yourselves. Bye.